Exciting process that we're going through where we're master planning a new community center for South Fayette. The master planning process is not design. We haven't designed a building yet. We've decided, we've worked together on what goes into the building and ideas how it can be funded and a process for how it can get built. So it starts to first look at a site and do site analysis and see what the opportunities are. Followed by looking at the existing building. What do we have now? What facilities do we have? And then a program of what types of things the community wants in their community center. From that, because everyone wants everything always, you set priorities. And you set priorities for what we can do first and what we can do next. And then finally, we do some concept drawings that help support that process to say, here's what you might do. And you can see a couple of drawings over there. We'll show some more as we go through this process. So that's how we go about doing it. And then finally, plans for implementation. How do we go about funding it? How do we go about building the building and implementing it over time? So the first thing we do, as I said, is we look at the site and we see what exists. So there are a number of things. The existing municipal building is right here, where we are. We're right in this room tonight. Public Works building is here. You'll see a note that one of the things that allows this to happen, to create this community center, is to move the Public Works building. So that's one of the things we would be doing. We look at Access Road. Again, this is Miller's Run Road. Access out to 79. There's a salt storage shed. Lots of fields, recreation areas for the exterior recreation areas for the township now. So it's the beginning of the nucleus of a really great center for the community. We also look at a little thing called floodplains. So we have this little creek in here, Miller's Run, and it has the ability to flood. And FEMA, our federal agency, has come out with new flood lines, and the blue line is the like 50-year, and the dark one is 100-year. They don't call them that anymore, but it's higher probability and lower probability of flooding. And you can see the existing building is in here, and this is the site that we're looking at. So we stayed outside the floodplain, always a good idea. Next, we looked at zoning, and the current zoning is C1. Where the existing building is and where the ball fields are, it's Conservation District 1, and it's all surrounded by R4. So there's no big constraints on what we can do here. It definitely fits into what's anticipated by the zoning and master plan for the community. So we look at the existing building first, and we say, well, what do we have now? What exists? And we'll just take you through this. Right now, the library is about 1,800 square feet. Township offices are about 4,300 square feet. The police station is just under 2,500 square feet here. And then the senior center where we are tonight is right here at about 3,500 square feet. So they're the pieces of the puzzle that we have today. And I should have pushed the button. And that equals about 12,000 square feet that exists today. So phase one, which the commissioners have found a way to fund, is going to be somewhere in a $7 to $8 million range. At this point, it's always a very ballpark number because nothing's been designed, but it's based on other facilities we've designed for other communities and the kind of cost per square foot that we see in those communities. So the first thing that's in the phase one, the highest priority, is an indoor gymnasium, multi-purpose kind of space. And right now it's 2 full basketball courts is what's planned in the first phase. And I like to put this photograph up because I think it shows you a little bit about what a community center is about. It's not just the jocks getting together to shoot hoops. It's used many ways by many different people, many different age groups, and ways that we use them. An exercise classroom, so there would be a room that could be, it's really a multi-purpose kind of space, but can be used for many different kinds of physical activities. A new library, so replacing the 800 square foot library with about 5,500 square feet of space. And then the building will require a new entry and lobby, restrooms, just like personal changing rooms, not big locker rooms in the first phase, kind of do it a step at a time. And then township offices, some minor renovations to the township offices, and we'll show that in a minute, but basically we backfilled the space vacated by the library for a commissioner's meeting room, move some offices to create some space for the police department. So the police department also gets some minor renovation and some expansion. They're really tight. If you've not had the opportunity to visit the police department, it's really squeezed. And of course, keep this space, the senior community center, very important part of town. And then fix up the exterior to some extent. Put a little bit of money into dressing it up and having everything look like it belongs together between the new building and the existing building. And finally, some additional parking. So the plan for this first phase is that it would be completed in the fall of 2017. And that equals just a little over 25,000 square feet is what's programmed for that first phase. Again, that's about $7 or $8 million, 25,000 square feet. So we'll look at the plan. What you can see here is this is the space. The police department really moves into some office space that exists now with very minor renovations. We're trying to do as little expense in renovating the existing building as possible in the first phase. These offices get replaced by offices where the current commissioner's meeting room is, and then the library becomes the new commissioner's meeting room and kind of multi-purpose room for the township. The new building is separated from the existing building. There would be an entrance here, and you'll see how that works into the overall plan as we develop it. But there would be an entrance. There are some toilet rooms, these couple of personal changing rooms, the exercise room, the two-court gymnasium, and the library. Now you'll notice there's this red dotted line, and there's an important reason for that red dotted line. It shows that there's a lot of place that we can expand the building, and a lot of ways that we can expand it. So while we have a phase two, and a phase two says what we think is going to happen, that could change in a couple of years down the road when we've lived with phase one and understand how it's being used and which of the amenities maybe need to be expanded. That program could shift and change to respond to community needs. So phase two, and this is not funded yet, consists of, first of all, demolishing the existing building, this building. It's really largely outlived its useful life and constrains the ability to create a really useful, functional community center. So there would be a new lobby then that serves the whole building. We'll see this on plan, but the concept is that this would be one complex, one building with a major lobby that you come into. It would be a greeting space. It's where you could turn one way, go to the library, you can go down the hall, go to the gymnasium, you can go to the community spaces, you can go to the township offices, you can go down the hall to the police station. So it's really the heart of the community, and you come to this one space and you get oriented. There'll be someone there to answer your questions, tell you where you have to go to get information. We add a third gymnasium. And when we build that out, so it's 3 full gyms instead of 2, we would also add an elevated walking running track, which is a feature that we find many communities like. When you only build 2 gyms, it's really not worth it to put the track in. It's too small, and you wouldn't want to do it and have to revise it for the 3rd gym. So it's real easy to add this 3rd gym and then add the amenity of the walking track. Additional exercise room. At that point, there would be locker rooms for people to change, so a place to lock your stuff up and get changed. Enhanced outdoor recreation. There's been talk about a walk and trail around the site could be incorporated into this phase. The library would then expand again to a total of 12,000 square feet. And you remember, it's about 1,300 square feet right now, so you're talking about a significant increase in the library. And then add more community spaces for seniors programs, meetings, youth programs, multi-purpose space. So this space would be replicated in other spaces that support it, so a wide variety of people could use it for all kinds of different functions, whether it's somebody reserving it for an event, for a birthday party, whatever it could be. There's a lot of potential that we could do. And then the police department would be expanded and relocated into the new building. The township offices would also be expanded and relocated into a new building. And there would be a period of time when the old building's demolished and the new building's being built that they would have to be located somewhere else temporarily. And we plugged money in for renting space. And then finally, additional parking to support the additional expansion. So this phase adds another 55,000 square feet to the project. So the total project at that point would be about an 80,000 square foot community center. So to get a sense of what we have here, when I was talking about the entrance, this is the main entrance where you come in, and again, it becomes kind of the hub of the center. So you can enter the library, you can go to the township offices, you can go to the various community rooms, you can go down the hall to the police station. The police would also have a direct access from the parking lot, so it would be easy to, if you just wanted to drop in the police station, you could do that. There would be a secondary entrance into this side, so that people that park back here would not have to walk all the way around the building, could come in here. There are stairs on both ends and an elevator that go up to the elevated running track, more exercise rooms, and again, the expanded gymnasium and the library. I think one of the really great features to look at here is that red line that we looked at before. You see there's still some more space here, and there's still more space here. So there is the potential for the program to grow even more, but that was really beyond the kind of time frame that we were looking at for the master plan. And that's it. Questions? Or you're
I was going to say, Rich, I can even speak, and then perhaps the next item after me would just be public comment and questions. Thanks, Rich. And I think some of you might be aware, but I think it's obviously when you look at WTW Architects, just to mention briefly, it's been a pleasure to work with them from the staff level. One thing I did want to point out that I mentioned, I think, before at a couple of public meetings is I think Rich, in particular, brings an interesting flavor to the project because not only is his firm very well known both in Pittsburgh and across the United States, but he's actually as well a South Fayette resident and has been a South Fayette resident for fair to say, a few years.
30-some years.
30 plus years. So I think it's an interesting perspective on the project in general. But I just wanted to talk briefly, and again, just to reiterate that, first of all, welcome to tonight's presentation, and hopefully allow for a chance on a informal or formal basis to ask questions and comments, which will be coming up shortly. I just wanted to speak briefly related to funding related to the project, and obviously as all of this feedback is gathered, and then the board will consider where to move from here, and so we're definitely welcome and looking forward to hearing feedback from you guys. But I really wanted to touch on related to the two phases, and as Rich had alluded to, the first phase, there is funding that is secured that would be eligible to be used for the first phase of the project. Primarily, or frankly, most of that money would come from several sources, one of which would be money that is currently in our what used to be, or what is called the Star City account, and that's related to, we have roughly about $2.5 million in there, which came specifically primarily from the sale of the property to Children's Hospital, and there were some properties that was sold to Washington Financial there at Star City. And then we would also have included in that pot of secured funding would be the $5 million offer we received from Horizon Property for the sale of the existing or the remaining property at Star City. And we do have some other funding available, but frankly that puts us right at about $7.5 million on a project for phase one that's estimated in between $7 and $8 million. And I would also point out that that funding or that money that was generated obviously is related to or frankly tied back to the Star City property, which obviously, as some of you might recall, was originally borrowed back in 2009 for some type of civic center or community center project. And I think the thing that's exciting about being able to use this property is it allows for us to have a fully funded first phase of the project and be able to pay without going out and having to borrow additional money, and to be able to be prudent and move forward. I think one of the things we identified through the process, and frankly using some of the existing information that was done in the prior studies for the Civic Center, was really to focus on those two areas where we've heard the most feedback related to use and need for a facility, and that frankly ties back to the library and the wonderful things that are going on there. And I know Cheryl, our director, is here, as well as a few of our board members from the library board, certainly appreciate them coming this evening. And the other area is our recreational department, which we constantly are in need for space for recreation programming. Paula Simmons, our recreation director is here this evening. And since she's been here, the amount of programming that we continue to offer is ramping up what seems like daily, which is exciting, and there's more and more need for it. And one of the things that one of Paula's biggest challenges is how to be able to house, frankly, indoor recreation programs. And frankly, right now, and thankfully, Margie Smith's here from the Senior Center this evening, the president, and definitely appreciate her being here. And right now, we've had a great cooperative effort with the Senior Citizen Center and the folks to be able to really try and share this. Hence, we're here this evening thanks to their generosity. And so it's really looking at, this is our indoor recreation space for a community of 15,000 people. And it is certainly a challenge. Paula has great ideas, and there's a lot of interest from folks that stop in to visit us and try and use the facility. So those are the two kind of core areas, as Rich described in our first phase, which is really why we focus specifically on those areas. And again, as I just wanted to mention again, that that the funding, if the board chooses to move forward, the funding is in place for that program. And we feel, from the staff level at least, we spent a lot of time, Andrea Igler, our Community Development Director, Mike Benton, our Director of Engineering, and frankly everyone, I look around the room, Chief, all our department heads have had great input, Peggy, have had great input, Cheryl as well, to the process. And we met with staff, just on a staff level today, to meet with all our staff members to go over and give them an update on where things are at. And so I think that's really the main points I wanted to highlight for everyone this evening. I did want to point out just one item, the handout that we, frankly, all the materials that you have this evening, hopefully they'll be helpful. Two things actually I wanted to mention. The first was the survey that Andrea Igler has prepared for everyone when working with Rich and his folks. This is a survey we'd ask everyone to consider filling out that speaks to just trying to gain some additional insight from folks in the year 2015 on what is it, those things related to this project that you feel are really a vital part, and some other opportunities for additional comments as well. And we're going to have that survey available on our website as well, and probably for a roughly 2-week period after tonight's meeting to welcome additional feedback. And so certainly encourage everyone to fill that out. There is a spot for your name, but it's absolutely optional, so don't feel pressure that you have to put your name on there. We'd welcome all feedback for sure.